everyone, I'm Tay, and this is Be All Inclusive's Wedding Wednesday at 1. And for the first time, we are all in the same location, coming to you from Orlando. Stay tuned because we have a special guest to tell us all about her experience with destination weddings. So let's go ahead and officially welcome our team. Everyone, introduce yourself and also where we can find you on social media.
James Bergley. You can find, I'm the owner of Be All Inclusive, and you can find us at Be All Inclusive on Instagram and TikTok.
My name is Julia Morrow, and I am the owner of JM Destination by Design, and my handle is JM Destination by Design.
My name is Laurie Bergley. I am James' wife and co-owner of Be All Inclusive, also the brains behind the business.
The real brain.
You can find me on Instagram at Maryland Equestrian. If there's any horse girls watching out there, you'll like my account.
And I am Taylor Martz with Vibe Thrive Travel, and you can find me at Vibe Thrive Travel.
Hi guys, I'm Tay, and you can find me on social media at Wonder for Distraction. So as you know, we've been answering lots of destination wedding questions on Wedding Wednesday at 1. So we thought it'd be a great idea to go directly to one of our clients who recently got married at Secrets Akumal in Mexico. Arika Ullman, please tell us about your experience with your destination wedding. What was the process like, and how did you choose Secrets Akumal as your resort?
It's actually funny how we decided to have a destination wedding. It was at my engagement party, and the person who set us up was like, why don't you guys have a destination wedding? And I'm like, that's a great idea. And so I talked to Chris, my husband, about it, and he was in, which I was kind of surprised about. And then I started just Googling online about destination weddings and finding a travel agent. And I don't know if James even knows this. I talked to 3 before him, and it was honestly not the best experience because
Well, I'm glad I won.
because the thing is every person I talked to before was trying to rush me off the phone, didn't want to answer any of my questions. And it was weird. I had one call. It was probably a 10-minute call, and then they rushed me to sign a contract. I'm like, I don't even know where this is. They wanted to sign a contract with a resort that I didn't even know what it was.
You mean you're not comfortable signing $100,000 contracts in 10 minutes? I don't understand.
James is actually the travel agent for a friend's wedding that I went to, and my friend Sierra was like, hey, why don't you hit up James? And I'm like, why didn't I think about that before? So James, obviously, I hit you up, and you spent an hour and a half going over everything with me. And Chris and I told you what we liked, what our, priorities were for a resort, and you sent us 5. And Chris and I spent hours watching them on YouTube. And Secrets Akumal, I could not get out of my mind. We were going to go with another resort, but I told Chris, I was like, no, this is the one. I just had a feeling. And it ended up being the best decision I've ever made. So thank you, James, for sending that resort to us. I don't think it could have been better than I ever expected.
What really drew you to Secrets Akumal? Were you tied? Were you down to 2 or 3, or how did you really decide on Secrets Akumal? What was it specifically that drew you into that property?
I'm not even gonna lie, it was the nightclub. Because we were down to Unico, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, and Secrets Akumal, and we felt that Unico had more of a honeymoon vibe to it, and there weren't a lot of choices for wedding venues, as there was at Secrets Akumal. When we found out there was a nightclub, we're like, okay, well, this is pretty much a free after party. So Chris and I enjoyed the nightclub every single night. We got our money's worth with that for sure. Chris said he didn't know who I was that weekend because I was up till 3 a.m. every night. Or that week, I should say. I'm telling you, we watched hours of YouTube videos. I would wake up at 2 a.m. and I was like, where's Chris? And he would be downstairs watching YouTube on the TV. Just of the resort. But the one thing we also loved is the foliage. Is that am I saying it right? It's so, I thought it was so different than any resort I've ever been to. You felt like you were in tropics. It was just so beautiful. And the food was great. We did hear really good reviews about the food, which was very shocking because my uncle even said, he was like, oh, I'm really nervous about coming to your wedding. Or he told me this after. He told me he was nervous about coming to my wedding because he didn't think he was going to be able to eat all week because all-inclusive food is usually not the best. And he was pleasantly surprised about how good it was. And it was really great. So
it's funny that you mentioned the foliage around the property because I shot one of like the first weddings at that property when they originally opened up in 2016, maybe. And when I went there, it was literally, there was nothing.
Like barren.
Everything has just been planted. And there was nothing, like there was no greenery at all. And it kind of drove me nuts. And when I came back a year later, everything had grown up so much and it completely changed the feel and look and feel of the resort. So I think that's really interesting. But no, I mean, obviously you made a good choice. So,
yeah.
Oh, so I was going to say, I'm really glad you brought up the YouTube because that's what I tell all of my couples to do. I'm like, you can go look at their websites all day long. Like, they're going to make their websites look great. I mean, and I also know some resorts that are absolutely amazing that have horrible websites. So I'm like, YouTube is like where it's at, where you can see like full resort tours. You can watch and other people's weddings. So that was really smart that you guys did that.
Yeah, honestly, I didn't even think about it then when Chris was like, well, we should look on YouTube. And I'm like, oh, that's like a good idea. And like, I'm telling you, we watched like 30 videos of just like people who aren't biased, you know, like they're not like, they're just going through through the resort showing us everything. And it was nice because I was able to see like the wedding venues in person, like on like camera, like in a video rather than just like pictures, which was really helpful. We never went to the resort before we got to before our wedding. So we took a huge risk. Like, we're asking, 75 people to come to this resort we've never been to, but we obviously trusted James and his opinion. And, watching the YouTube videos definitely made us feel comfortable. But, like, it's still crazy how blown out of the water we were when we got there. Like, I think I'm still, like, in shock about how much I love that resort. And I'm pretty picky. I'm a picky person. And it was just beautiful. So we got lucky.
I was going to ask, you mentioned not even being able to visit the resort prior to your destination wedding. Would you say that was an extremely stressful part, or what was the most stressful part about planning your destination wedding?
I told James this, I honestly, I feel like I didn't stress a lot. The only thing I stressed about was a few people tried to come late. They wanted to be added on like a month before the wedding. So that was the only thing that was a little stressful. But what really helped me is the Facebook group, because I feel like if I wasn't a part of the Facebook group, I would have been very stressed, just because the wedding team does not reach out to you. Most people plan their weddings, a year in advance, and they're talking to the coordinators, the vendors, monthly. We really didn't. I didn't hear from them until maybe a month and a half out, and didn't finalize anything until maybe a week or two out. So when people say trust the process, like in the Facebook group, you really have to trust the process, because the wedding teams there are amazing and they get things done. It's crazy what they can do.
It's like they do it every day. it's like they've done it before.
Yeah, right, exactly. So I mean, I would say the most stressful part was just people trying to come last minute and kind of like changing like some of the stuff that I was bringing, like the seating chart, changing all that stuff. But like, I don't think I was really stressed. That was a great thing about it, because I don't really know if like, I'm not the type of person that likes to pick like the color of the napkins, the color of the forks, so it's just nice to know that they were going to take care of that and that they were going to get it done. So
Would you say there's anything from your wedding that you regret doing or not doing?
honestly, I don't have any regrets. I mean, the only thing I do regret is not staying longer.
Oh, yeah.
Chris and I, we got married on a Friday and we left Sunday, which was not smart of us. We, so maybe just like changing that up a little bit, because we got there Monday and left Sunday. So I would think staying a little longer after the wedding and not getting there so early before the wedding. But like, that's the only thing that I really regret. I mean, it was just the best time ever. Like, I mean, I'm telling everyone to have a destination wedding from now on. Like, if you like to travel and you can afford it, like, destination wedding is the way to go.
Well, it's interesting you talk about, like, can you afford it, though? Because, I've been a photographer in the Baltimore, D.C. area for a long time. And the venues that we worked at in that area, I mean, 20 grand, just an empty ballroom, 6 hours, nothing else, no food, nothing else. And like, our destination weddings are still spending far less than a comparable event in the States. So it's like, it's not even like that. I think the afford it thing, I mean, do you agree? What are your thoughts on that as far as affordability of doing a destination wedding?
That's one of the reasons, like, when Chris and I got engaged, I was like, I don't want to spend, like, I don't want to start this marriage off like $40,000, $60,000 in debt. Money's like very important to me. I'm very frugal. But when I figured out, like, when we talked about cost, I was like shocked. I'm like, wait, we're going to be in paradise and bring everyone we love there with us. And this is all how it costs, like how much it costs. Even like the photographers, the hair and makeup, it's significantly cheaper in Mexico than it was. Like I was able to get video and photos for less than people pay for just photos here, which was literally insane. And like, I'm so glad, because like, if I was in the States, I wouldn't be able to afford like a video. And now I was able to in Mexico.
So it sounds like you were able to keep that in perspective, like, because how did you know how much things cost in the U.S.? Because I find a lot of times with our couples, they tend to forget how much things cost, and so they're of the mentality that oh my gosh, doing a destination wedding, everything's so expensive. But really, this is the first event they've really put on in their lives. So this is the first time they're experiencing how much an event actually costs to put on. And they forget how much the event would have cost in the U.S. Right. And so when that happens, I feel like it's easy for a bride to get lost in that, oh, this is so expensive, this is so expensive. So Arika, how did you keep that perspective? How did you know how much things cost in the U.S.?
Well, in the U.S., I mean, I've been, like, I'm at the age right now when everyone's getting married. And, a few of my friends, they told me that they signed a contract for $50,000 just for the venue and, for appetizers. And I'm like, well, Chris and I, we probably won't be able to do that.
Yeah, if any brides are listening right now, if you're signing a contract for $50,000, please come to me, and we will do much better than that and give you a much better venue, in my opinion.
They think that like traveling, like most people won't travel, and like that was one thing with us. Like we're like with COVID and everything, we're like, well, we probably won't have a lot of people. I was nervous that we weren't even going to get 50 people to meet the contract, but it's crazy how many people want to travel. Because it gets them out of the house. It forces them to have a vacation. And I cannot tell you how many thank yous we got. We're like, Arika, thank you for having a destination wedding because we were able to get out of the house and you forced us to have a vacation that we would have never taken.
I say that all the time. Like there's people that will go to a destination wedding and they've never even had a passport before. And like you're the reason why they now have a passport and they're probably going to travel to somewhere else, next year. So it's such a fun feeling.
No, I remember when we did our first destination wedding with Corey and Christina back in the day, and we were all in the lobby as everybody was arriving, and you pulled Corey aside and you said, really take this moment in because this might be the last time that this number of friends and family are all here together for an event like this. And it's not just, again, like a 6-hour thing back home. This is a 3 to 5 day thing where we're all together. And it's like, as relatives move or pass away or whatnot, like really live in that moment. And again, and you brought them there. And so like, that's something that like when they're thanking you, you should be like, yeah, that was a good idea.
I did that.
Yeah.
Here, welcome everybody.
Yeah, like my friends, like they're all like about to have babies. They're like, Arika, like we're never gonna do this again. Like I was like, I know. And I would like to say my 93-year-old grandmother came to my wedding.
Good. Oh my gosh, that's
93 years
amazing.
old. So, and I remember when I sent her the invitation, I was like, can you come? And she's like, if I'm alive, I'm gonna be there.
That's a good grandma.
Like, that's so special to me. Like, my 93-year-old grandmother was able to come. And she had the best time. All
right, well, thank you so much, Arika, for taking the time to join us today and tell us all about your experience. It always helps out future couples to hear from a couple that's already gone through that destination wedding experience.
Thank you guys. I appreciate all your help with my wedding and everything. I appreciate it.
Up next, we have Lori. She's going to introduce one of our favorite team members, Julia, and tell us all about how she got into the destination wedding and travel industry.
All right, so I have the privilege of interviewing Julia. Like Taylor said, she is one of our favorite team members, and Julia is super special to us because she started almost 2 years ago with us at Be All Inclusive as an inside sales assistant. So what that means was she was working in the inbox, she was going back and forth with our clients, processing reservations, all that sort of thing. And then as she got more into the industry, she decided to, she's still working in that role, but she decided to move on and start her own business, Destination by Design, and become a travel agent. So we're going to get to that part in a minute, but let's just open up by telling us a little bit about yourself, your background, and then what drew you to wanting to become a part of the travel industry to begin with.
Well, really, it all started when I met Dawn, the owner of Wish to Wander, in a McDonald's parking lot.
In a McDonald's
Yeah,
parking lot, really?
in a McDonald's parking lot. We had our meeting because it was kind of like a middle point of our two locations. So we're like, yeah, let's just have our interview in McDonald's parking lot. So I literally hopped into her passenger
You worked with
seat.
her first.
Yeah.
I knew you knew her, but I forgot that you actually worked with her.
Yeah. So I hopped
Okay.
into her passenger seat, and then I initially did social media for her for a while, and then not shortly after, she introduced me to James, and then James stole me from Dawn.
Well, yeah, I see. I used to feel bad that I stole you from Dawn, but
don't
now
think
that I
she
know
cared.
she did the interview in a
Yeah.
McDonald's parking lot, now I don't like.
No, she didn't care. But then, yeah, after I started with James, it kind of went on from there, and it escalated very, very fast. I mean, I started off with finalizing, if that says anything.
I tend to give people a lot of responsibility
Yeah.
right away.
Yeah,
So
well, you
it's
also
like,
tend to
come in,
give
you're doing
people-
80 million things, go.
You tend to give people the jobs you don't like. So
Yes,
like you
I learned
immediately
that
were
very
like,
fast.
You're finalizing.
Yeah, here, learn how to do booking forms
Learn
and
how to do everything I
websites.
hate.
Yeah,
Sounds about right.
Pretty much. But it's been really fun, very fast paced. Like the beginning of it, I remember having my notebook and being like, what's this? What's this? But yeah, but now it's just like, okay, this, and I'm done. So it's really cool to think back and be like where I started, and now that I have my own personal agency, it's really cool to see the growth, and it's all thanks to James.
So that's a really good. So that's a good segue into the next. So at what point did you decide that you wanted to move into the sales role and become a travel agent and start your own company?
Well, I don't really think it was a decision, more so like the literal perfect opportunity that fell into my lap, and a little bit of pressure from James.
I was gonna
You
say,
want to
I
sell,
knew
don't you?
that
You
was
want to
gonna
sell,
be
don't you?
Listen, if you're doing so well, if you can handle something, I'm going to give you more. Like
Yeah.
that's just the way we roll.
Yeah, well, I did love what I was doing, and I knew I wanted to get into it more, into a more serious way. So becoming an actual sales agent made it a possibility to make it into a career for myself and be sustainable on
Were
it.
you nervous to move into the sales role? Yeah.
Extremely nervous, but I also knew like it was calming because I know I always have James
Yes.
to rely on.
Yes.
So
And the team.
yeah, and the team. But it was very nerve-wracking, and just being so young, I was kind of like, am I ready for this yet? Because like I haven't even had like a corporate job or anything.
Right.
It's like, do I want to start my own
James is like,
business
yes,
before
you're
even
ready.
having a job?
Trial by fire. Yeah.
But I mean, I think a lot of times, like, you touched on the beginning where you were talking about, you didn't say stay at the resort, but you kind of like, you want to travel and you want to go see and
Yeah.
want to go actually out and learn about the culture and learn about the communities and that type of thing. How do you play that? Because, we're in the all-inclusive resort space, and so many of our customers stay at the resort and never leave.
Yes.
And so how do we've gone out a little bit and done
Yeah.
stuff off resort, but still overall the resort stays we're there at the resort. How do you manage that? How are you able to get out and go see things? And
Well, I think being at an all-inclusive, it's a little more difficult because you have the mentality, everything's right here, I don't want to leave. But at the same time, if you know about the opportunities and experiences that are 15 minutes away from you, like go see a cenote, go see anything that could be out there. And it's just having the people to give you that information that you need. Because if you don't know where you can go, then you're going to stay put.
With destination weddings, so a lot of people I think have that mentality, which is a good one. Like when you travel somewhere, you want to go and experience where you actually are. But in reality, when I have brides being like, I don't know if we should do Cabo, or if we should do Cancun, if we should do Punta Cana, at the end of the day, personally, it's like you guys are not leaving that resort unless you go to an excursion. Right. So when it's for a destination wedding, I think a lot of people need to change their mentality of like, it's not just you and your significant other traveling and going and experiencing. Like all-inclusive makes sense for destination weddings because you guys are not leaving that resort unless you go on like a fun party boat. So just want to make note of that.
So, you've been in the industry for almost 2 years now, and you've traveled a bunch with us and on your own and with Brandon.
Yes.
How many resorts have you been to or site visited, and which one's your favorite and why?
I would say my favorite is like El Dorado Royale, El Dorado Casitas, and Generations. And I really do like that property mainly because just like it feels huge. Like you can walk and keep walking and keep walking, and then you have so many restaurant options. And the food there, I just think is like so amazing compared to any other all-inclusive that I've had. So I think that's really great. And my favorite one out of the three, I will say, is Casitas, just because the outdoor showers.
Yes.
I know. I seriously take probably like 2 outdoor showers a day when I stay there because I just want to be standing out there.
No,
naked.
It's amazing. No.
Naked? Did you say? Ma'am, did you say naked?
Yes, naked.
It's funny that you mentioned El Dorado Royale because you said like you can keep on walking and walking and walking, and to some people that's a turn off. So I just want to throw out the fact that if you buy a foldable skateboard that you can put in your carry-on.
No, they have bikes there, people.
You
golf
can
carts.
actually take that electric skateboard with you and skateboard all around the property.
The walking is the best because then when you eat too much, because the food is amazing,
and
you
like,
can
you
exercise
can walk along the ocean, and it's peaceful.
It is peaceful. And
you
like
can
you
also
said, like,
skateboard along the ocean.
it's a large resort, but it never feels crowded, especially at Casitas. It feels very private. They have a lot of greenery, kind of similar to what we were talking about with Arika at Secrets Akumal, and it has a very authentic feel. So it's my favorite too.
Yeah, and it's like you literally have your own private swim-up pool that no one's probably going to be going into.
Right.
So it's for you and your party to enjoy, which I think that's a really cool park.
Any one particular thing that you love best about helping brides and grooms plan their weddings?
I really love just being able to help them pick a destination that like fits their own personalities. But really, I do love just being able to be a part in something so special for a couple. Because really, when you think back on it, like people are talking about their wedding day as their most important day. And just being able to play a part in it and a big part in it and putting it together, I think that's a really cool thing to be able to say.
Thanks so much, Julia, for sharing your story. We're going to move on into the question of the day. It is, do you have to provide a dinner for your photographer at your wedding?
Yes.
Yes, 1,000 times yes. Photographer and photographer's wife here saying, yes, please, God,
All
please
vendors,
provide
really.
a freak. Yes, I mean,
Yes.
it's...
All vendors.
When I was shooting weddings, it was so awkward. I would go to venues and there would be a buffet. A buffet. Mm-hmm. There's going to be leftover food at the buffet, y'all.
And they try to tell you no?
They would say no.
The
they
venue
would say
would
that's
be
for
like,
the guests
you
only.
can't. Here's a box lunch
they
for
would
you.
They would do a vendor meal,
a-
which was like a lunch meat sandwich
Yes.
and like a bag of chips.
Oh, lovely.
yum.
Yes. Meanwhile, you
That
were
was like days old.
running around, sweating your butt
Elementary
off,
field trip.
exhausted. Feed the people. It's not that hard.
So would you just add you onto your final count?
Okay, right. So here's the thing when it comes to the bride side. When it comes to the bride side, what happens is the venues are going to pretty much charge you for a vendor meal. Okay. So a lot of times you have an option as a bride. You can say, hey, I'm going to include the photographer and the DJ or whatever in my guest count. Sometimes that may mean, hey, I'm going to actually include a seat for them at one of the tables. Sometimes it's I'm going to include them in the guest count. I'm going to pay for a meal for them, but I don't want a seat for them. Like I'm not going to go sit down generally anyway. It's usually when I ate as a photographer, it was like eat,
Right.
and then get back to work. You don't need to provide them a seat. You need to provide them a meal, though, because it's a long, hard, hot day, especially in the tropics, shooting a wedding. So you can do it as a official meal, like it is. The photographer gets the same thing the guests get. That's what we all prefer.
Yes.
We all prefer.
them.
Or you can do a vendor meal, and a vendor meal is typically it's less cost for the couple. But it's
That
usually
might be the lunch meat.
yeah, that's the ham and cheese that's been sitting for 3 days.
Yeah, that's not going to be yummy.
But it's something to eat, and at least it's something
At least it is
to
something,
eat.
yeah.
But if you provide nothing a lot of venues. It varies on the venue I was at. So some venues wouldn't care if you just run through the line and grab stuff. Other venues would be like, nope, you're not allowed to go through the buffet. I'm like, you're going to have leftover
Right,
food.
you're gonna
Let
throw
me
this away in
eat.
10
I'm
minutes.
dying here. I mean, one venue literally had a buffet, and they told me I couldn't eat. And I was so exhausted that day. I was in Baltimore. It was a local wedding. I left and went across the street and went to McDonald's or something and got something because I'm just sitting there
Ridiculous.
thinking how ridiculous it is. But from the bride's perspective, it's not something you think about.
I was just about to
Yeah.
say that is not something that I would think about unless somebody asked me. And then if they were like, "Oh, do you want a vendor meal?" I'd be like, well, can't they just eat what's there? Like, especially when it's a buffet.
Yeah.
And
You'd
most
almost
of the
assume they
destination
could.
weddings, I feel like most of the ones I see do a buffet.
Yeah.
So it's like, is it really that big of a deal?
Apparently it is
But
sometimes.
this is why we're educating
But no,
on doing this. And that's something that like I'm thinking, I'm like, I'm going to put a note in my phone, make sure that I do that.
Now, I guess when you think about, so I'm not as familiar with this, but if you hire the resort photographer and they're only on site with you for an hour or 2 hours, then that might be a little different. But if you're bringing in someone or you're having like
yeah.
Arturo
Yeah.
come and they're going to be there for the duration, feed them.
But again, like people don't think about it. So it's like, how many
True.
times do you think you've been in that situation? And if the
Right.
bride knew that she had done that to you, she probably felt horrible.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
And because the bride's not going to know on the day of either. Like they're going a mile a minute, being pulled in every direction. They have no clue what's going on with you or if the venue is feeding you or not.
when you've been the photographer for a destination wedding, I'm assuming people have paid for your travel. But then what about like somebody who is local? And of course, we still want to feed them. What about tipping? Is that a completely different question? Because I really need to
it
know.
is a different question, and as kind of Taylor mentioned, like
Or just write it down, somebody, because that's
it's
like,
your photographer. You want
Yeah.
to make sure you take care of them, right?
Right.
So,
what's like expected
and
though.
we've discussed that
Honestly,
before. Like,
yeah.
nothing is expected.
Nothing is expected.
No,
Okay, that's
no
all.
tip is
That's what I wanna
expected.
know.
And
But
I feel like as a local photographer and a destination wedding photographer, you got tipped maybe 10% of the time.
no, I'd say it's more like 30%.
Really?
Yeah.
I felt like it was very few and far between. But again, it wasn't expected, so everything was super nice. Or sometimes what brides will do is they would send you a gift card or something later. Like when they do their thank you cards, like a month or two later, there would
Once
be
they
like
get
a
their
gift card.
pictures back.
Yeah. They're like, I
But in
approve of these.
reality, no.
I approve
But
of
there
these.
is a
Here you
really
go.
good advantage to tipping at the actual
Yeah, I
event
know.
because then in the photographer's mind, the photographer says, "Oh, that person tipped me. Guess what? I shot 3 weddings this weekend. Who do you think's going to the front of the line on
Yes.
editing?
This is
the
what I
person that
remember us
tipped me
talking
because
about.
I want
Yes.
to please them."
Right.
And again, you shouldn't do that, whatever. But it's just human
I mean, it's
nature.
not
Like
what
that's
you do.
right. I didn't do that.
Okay, sorry. We can go to the other question. I didn't mean to do that.
Photographers may do that, but anyway.
Should I have a sweetheart table, meaning a table just for 2 at my reception?
I think the sweetheart table is a good idea as long as we get served our food first so we can eat and be done and start. And then you and I went around, and not everybody has to do this, and we had a local wedding, so
I was just
obviously
about
that
to say.
changed things too.
Yeah.
But we wanted to go around and say hi to everybody as they were eating, and they were all kind of seated in one place. So I think from a like logistically time perspective, that's a good idea, but that's also for a local wedding. So a destination wedding, maybe it's nicer to have some cute pictures of just the 2 of you sitting there.
I think
and
it's,
like,
I think it's
and
definitely
you
cute.
also get like a moment of like
Yes.
just the 2 of
Yeah.
you talking. No one else is there. You can like kind of recount and be like, have your moments, and then everybody can clink the glasses and you can kiss.
That's what she said.
That's what it's all about.
Got it. Okay. Remember that one at my wedding.
Clinking glasses, important.
I think you
I
definitely
will be
should.
doing that at your wedding.
Yeah, you definitely will. Definitely will. I think having that moment because you've been with everybody the whole time. And it is one thing I feel like people don't talk about, and it's a good thing, but like a destination wedding as the couple is very overwhelming and it's exhausting, like mentally draining in the best way. It's amazing. But it's like, now imagine if you felt that way for just like a few hours at a local wedding. It would be terrible. But it's like you get to take the time to be together, eat real quick because you're
Have a
still probably going
breather.
to eat quick and have a breather and like honestly literally take in what is in front of you, like all your friends and all your family.
I agree. And I remember when we were doing sites that one day at Atelier, you were literally like, no, we're not going to get this room because we're not going to have time to spend in it because
Yes.
you're so busy with all your guests. So I think having that sweetheart table gives you to like a little special moment. It may be a fast moment, but it still gives you like, hey, this is our wedding
We
and a
did
little
it.
reality.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you can go around and talk to everyone again. So I think it gives you just a little intimate moment that everyone kind of wants.
I agree.
I like having a vibe check moment.
Yeah.
With your person where you're like, you good?
Right,
You good?
yeah.
You know,
We
or
just
like,
did
did you
this.
see Aunt so-and-so? Like, I love
drunk
having
they
those
are.
little moments.
See, I understand what you're saying and like having that time, and there is maybe a little bit, but this is the reality of what actually happens at the weddings. Uncle so-and-so or the groomsman or whoever, they go up there and they monopolize the couple's time.
Well, that's when you need to say, go sit down, Sam. We're having a moment.
Yeah.
And that's why there's
But that's
only
what-
2 chairs there.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't matter though, because they will
No,
literally
I have
come up
seen,
there
yeah, the
and they'll
uncle
sit
like, they'll
beside
come
them
and take a selfie,
they'll-
and then
right,
they'll just sit
they'll
and
just
chat and
chat
chat and
and
chat.
all of that, and
And
they
that's
just
when you
monopolize
need
all
to
that
be
time, so
like-
they take away from that time.
Well,
I think
that's
if
what
the-
you need. Well, what you need to do is you need to have your maid of honor or something just kind of be on guard. And if you
Yes.
see that person, like come and like, you know,
But here's
Get
the
outta
thing:
here.
Shield
from
you.
a photographer's perspective, there's a better time to have a moment between the two of you, and I think that time is typically right after the ceremony. But you have that time in between the ceremony and the reception.
Without the sweetheart table, how do you choose who sits at your table?
yeah,
like
the
a bridal
are you with
party.
your family or
Yeah,
the
it's
bride?
usually wedding party. Or
That's the other thing.
What
It
if
gets
it's
too
big?
big. Yeah, it gets
See?
too big. That's the other side.
Yeah,
Good call.
then, right. Then there's the awkwardness of who's actually
That's
going to
so
be able to
bad.
sit
Because you
there.
want their significant others to sit. Like I had one of my
There's
best
drama
friends
there.
got married and she was sitting in the
I'm
middle.
like, sweetheart.
And then we all were like next to her, and then significant others had chairs like on the other side too, because it's like you don't want to
Yeah.
separate them. Like that's one thing that's big on bridal
I don't
party.
like
Don't take
that.
them away from like the wedding as
Yeah.
well. You
Okay,
know.
so there may be drama depending on who you decide to have at that table then as well, and you want to avoid that. But I think another part of it is, like I said, in between the ceremony and reception, where you have that time where you're going to take photos. Literally, don't even have your photographer come and literally, hey, I'm going back to the room. Photographer, you can be in for 2 minutes, and other than that, I want 5 minutes alone with my significant other.
What to like
That sounds
seal the
scheduled.
deal?
Maybe it's seal the deal. I don't know.
It's like,
We're
that
gonna
sounds scheduled.
consummate
I don't
He
know what they
mentioned
did.
5
I usually
minutes.
had about
5
I had
minutes.
about 2 seconds to take a photo, and then I was like, all right, I'm going to
consummate
stand
this bitch.
outside the door
like,
awkwardly
wow.
and wait for y'all to be done. I don't know what you're doing, but they just
Just
If
freshen
I
it
knew a
up.
photographer was
Just
standing
freshen it
right
up.
outside my door, I would
just needed a
not
vibe
feel
check, not
relaxed.
I know, and that ruins the vibe.
Like, well,
My vibe is killed.
I'd rather do my vibe
Squash.
check on the beach surrounded by looking at pretty people, not in a room by myself on my wedding day.
At that point, I'd be like,
What do you
well,
wanna
you
talk
might as
about?
well
Well,
get some
let's put this
pictures of
over
this.
with.
regardless, many people did that, and it worked for them.
Wedding.
I
thought it
guess
was a
if
little
it's
weird.
really hot, maybe
because-
you just want to take a break in the air condition
That
for a
would be
minute.
But that may be true too.
That-
But as a photographer, I'm sitting there like, okay, we got to go because
Right.
this is the time where now I'm on. Now I've got to get all these couple photos, and that's the best part of doing a wedding as a photographer is doing the couples photos, and we got to roll. So I don't want you to take all
But you
that time.
can't rush
First look.
love.
I know,
First look.
right? Then you're touring like
about
I
that
can't,
another
Doing the
day.
I like
dirty.
those
I
pictures.
can't rush
Yep.
this intimate moment,
Yeah.
or maybe they're just not. They're not. I'm not going to go there.
how important is it to have a room block contract at my destination wedding?
It is so important. I think people have this mentality that, oh, I can always get a room at this resort. No, you can't. You cannot always get a room at the resort. Resorts sell out on the regular. I mean, we're dealing with resorts that are like booked for weddings throughout all of 2024 today, and we're in January of 2023.
Yep.
Like, so it is so important to not only obviously you've got to book your wedding date with the resort, but you also have to book those rooms and get all the rooms that you think you may need, because a lot of resorts will sell out, and you're going to be stuck without rooms if you don't do a room block contract. You risk that. You also lock in your pricing on all of your rooms when you do a room block contract, and that is so important to lock in that pricing for all of your guests, so that one guest doesn't book to that tomorrow and pays $1,000, and a guest books 3 months from now and pays $3,000, or those guests can't even come to your wedding because it's too expensive now. Lock in the pricing, lock in the rooms.
It's literally leaving money on the table.
Yeah, I agree. And I literally have 2024 brides coming to me asking to add on rooms, and I'm reaching out to the resort and they're saying, sorry, we already have it sold.
Yep.
And that's why it's so important to have it initially. Like, just contract more rooms than you think you need, because you're
Yes.
going to be able to release them, and then you're not going to have to stress about adding on rooms, getting them for the contracted rates and stuff like that. So
There is no risk. Like, there really actually isn't a risk.
No.
Like, I tell my brides, like, if you're in penalty, I'm in penalty.
Literally.
If you're losing money, I'm losing money. So, like, there is no risk. You're leaving leaving money on the table because it's the only way to get groups like comps and incentives. And it is the money that you put up for it pays for your own room. And if it's more, if your room is less than that, you get the money back. So there's really no point not to.
Yeah, I think it's a win-win. Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Wow.
So you get the money
God.
back.
Yeah.
You get the money back if the room's not used.
Yes.
Why
yes.
on earth wouldn't you do that?
Don't
I
know.
think a lot of people panic because you do have to put initial
upfront.
deposit up front, and I think that it's probably not that much. It depends on the resort, but I think people just don't want to part with that large sum.
I think, and that's another aspect that you had left out was the comps and incentives.
Yeah.
Locking in those comps and incentives. Resort promotions change on the regular. And so today they can be offering every 6th room free.
Right.
They can change that promotion next month. And guess what? Now it's every 15th room free.
Yeah, it can
And
change.
so if you don't do a contract, you did not lock in that promotion. And so even though your agent may be able to consolidate your quote unquote group as a group, they're going to do that about a month before travel. So whatever incentives that there are, promotions that the resort's offering at that time are what's going to apply to your group. So if it's gone to every 15th room free, and right now, guys, the resorts don't have to give up a lot of things right now. They don't have to, they're not begging for business like they were in 2020, 2021. They're full. So we may see these incentives start going away or start being reduced.
And
So-
even if, God forbid, you don't hit the minimum,
You get it back.
you still
Yeah.
get that money back. There is
Right.
literally no risk.
No.
And I don't know if is it a situation where the agent just doesn't know, because there's a lot of agents in our industry that are just not experienced with groups.
It's totally different.
Right.
A travel agent, I feel weird even calling myself a travel agent because it doesn't really make sense to what people are used to.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so destination
different.
weddings are a whole different ball game. Groups are a whole different ball game. There's more liability. It takes an experienced agent to really know what they're doing. So it could be somebody that doesn't know what they're doing, or it could also be a situation where the agent is grouping it and they're just not giving the guests, they're not giving their client their comps, and they're taking their
so
comps.
bad.
Oh, that's shady.
I can't imagine.
It happens.
All right, guys, that's all the time we have for today. I want to thank our entire team and our BAI bride, Arika, for joining us today. Of course, if you'd like to hear more about planning a destination wedding, you can follow us on Instagram at BeAllInclusive, at Vibe Thrive Travel, and at JM Destination by Design. And if you have any other questions about destination weddings in Mexico or the Caribbean, feel free to DM us so we can have your questions answered on our next Wedding Wednesday at 1.